Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Current News Extra TV Interview Session, a program where we invite innovators, stakeholders, influencers in the blockchain, crypto, and fintech ecosystem to come air their view. So today we're going to be looking at the overcoming the hurdles as a startup. Being a startup in the fintech and blockchain ecosystem is very. It is not an easy road to walk. So we're going to be getting some input from our guest, David Lanre Messan, who is the DLM. His the abbreviation for his name is DLM. He's the CEO, First Founders. He's joining us from UK. You're welcome, Dave.
Hi, it's nice to be on the show, and I'm excited.
It's our pleasure. I hope you're having a wonderful day.
Yes, of course. It's been a great day, sunny, and it's been wonderful so far, so good.
Yeah, interesting. So let's look at the topic for the day, overcoming the hurdles as a startup. But before we go straight to that, I would like to get a brief about yourself and your background.
Okay, so my name is David Larry Messon. A lot of people call me DLM. I'm a startup builder, and I'm a fundraiser. But prior to now, I've always been a fund a strategist, an idea strategist, and I've been there for 16 years, working with over 250 SMEs. But now I've been playing very deeply with the tech ecosystem for the past 6 or 7 years, and I run a company called First Founders, which is a startup studio partnering with early stage founders to build, scale, and fund their startups. Well, I'm basically working with early stage founders at the bottom of the pyramid to be able to deal with the challenges of getting off the ground in the startup ecosystem.
Interesting. You are not a new person in this ecosystem, most especially starting a business at that very early stage is very challenging. So, what are some of the challenges that, from your experience, many startups face, most especially at the early stage?
So, the first challenge that startups face from the beginning is clarity with the idea, because oftentimes people don't. The early stage founders are seem to be too passionate with the idea without understanding that it's important for them to know what the market says about the idea, what is the market sensitivity about that idea, and most importantly, to understand the business model in itself. How would you create value? How will you capture that value, and how will you deliver that value? And these are very intricate requirements for having to put a startup out there as a person. So I would say that the number one challenge that entrepreneurs face is being clouded with the idea of their startup without having to look deeply into the core process of that idea. A lot of people will say, "Oh, it's funding. Capital is the problem. Capital is also." But I would always say that the capital is not the problem. The capital will always come once we are prepared to actually attract the capital. Because the truth is that a lot of investors are out there ready to invest in startups, and but then they can't just give you money when they know you are going to waste the money. You have to be prepared to get that money, and that is why I say it's important to have the clarity of what it is that you're trying to do, both from the user perspective, the market perspective, and from the product perspective. So that is what I think that I can term to be the first challenge on having clarity of that idea, or from a problem point of view, non-clarity of idea is a major challenge that a lot of founders face as of today.
Interesting. It's almost the same thing because what I want to ask next is looking at some of the mistakes some of these early stage founders make. It's like you have pointed out that as the challenges, some of these challenges. What are some of the mistakes? You've mentioned that being much more looking at your idea, not looking at how it work. So, what are some mistakes you have identified personally with your experience that many startup founders make that crash their business?
So some of them, I mean, there's a part of the Bible says that if you want to build a house, you must count the cost of that house before you venture into building that house. How many founders sit down to count the costs? Some of them just start building that idea without having to have a clean cut plan. So I always say that some of the mistakes that founders make is that one, they don't have clarity of that idea. Two, they don't have a sustainable team. They don't try to identify the right kind of team that helps them to, you know, deliver that idea. Sometimes also they think that capital is the way forward. So they go too early going to look for capital when they should spend a lot more time in that early phase building the product. There's a part of raising fund and there's a part of building. And it's important for you to be able to build, measure, and learn from your startup even before you go to begin to raise. So the part of building is that you build that idea. The second of the part of measure is that learn to measure what the reaction of the users of that idea, what their reactions are, so that you can improve very quickly, on that idea to be able to carve a niche for yourself within what you are trying to do within that product development. And then you learn very quickly from the mistakes that you probably would make in that early phase. So I always say that these are some of the mistakes. Sometimes it's a mistake of leadership. Some founders do not understand the concept of entrepreneurship. They don't know that to become an entrepreneur, becoming an entrepreneur, is more about leading people, inspiring them to be able to deliver the best, to users, and also managing the processes of that company, taking that processes onto the point of profit. You understand? So it's more about people, process, and profit. You get? So you need to be able to understand that. See, there's a people part of what you're trying to do as an entrepreneur. There's a process part, masterminding and understanding the process of delivering, capturing that value, or capturing and delivering that value in itself. And there's also the part where you understand how revenue will lead you to profit in trying to get your product out there. So as an entrepreneur, we make that mistakes of not doing reverse engineering to understand what it is that we're trying to build. We are all too forward going outside instead of coming inside to see what is going on inside. And I always say that there's a psychological saying that says that the rate of change outside is equals to the rate of change inside, or the rate of change inside is equals to the rate of change outside. You understand? So which means that
Yes.
before you look out, it's important for you to look from inside out. You get that way you are better positioned as an entrepreneur to be able to push your business. For example, I bootstrapped my business to this point. Today we are valued at over $25 million, but I never have to go and look for anybody to give me money. I've never gotten one investor in the company as of today. You understand? Now, how did I come to that point? I was able to understand that there's a problem out there. Let us try to solve that problem. And while we are looking at that problem, we were as much as possible testing that problem from a solution point vis-a-vis the users and understanding how the user wants to be served. And when we understood that, we now come back and develop processes, and then develop products that fit into the actual need of the user. So by the time we are going out there to the user and say, hey, come, this is the product, they're like, wow, this is what I need. This is what I've been looking for. You understand? But guess what? They've always been the guinea pig. You understand? They've always been
Yes.
that product that we were looking at, but we have to go back inside and say, yeah, look at what has been happening. Look at what everybody's looking at. Let's create a product to fit into that actual need. When we put it out there, we began to make money, and that's how we were able to bootstrap continuously to be able to get to this point. And let me also share a very quick strategy. So when we started the company, I knew that content strategy is one of the ways to be able to get people, to know that indeed we know what we are doing, and that way they are able to validate what we're trying to do. You understand? You are able to invite me to this interview today because you have probably been seeing the consistency of the content I put on LinkedIn, right? And that sort
Yes.
of give you an idea that, oh, this person knows what he's saying. Assuming you want to pay me for a product, you would have been better convinced without you even seeing me for the first time. But you have seen the trajectory and the consistency of the information that I put out there because they are experiential, practical, and actually addresses real problems of entrepreneurs at the early stages. You understand? And that's why you're able to say, hey, come and talk about this thing on our show. That means you have bought into me as a person. So without you me having to come and market to you, I've used my content to convince you, you understand, to get you to my side. And then when I now recommend something, you know that I'm coming from a knowledge point. Those are also structures and strategies to helping entrepreneurs understand that you don't just create a product out of nowhere, go to market out of nowhere without understanding the pipeline to where the problem is coming from, what exactly, where is that, why that problem exists, and what you need to do to be able to address that problem, and who exactly that solution will be for. Do you understand? So it's
Yes.
important for founders to understand that I'm not going to come and give you a bread and butter concept and say, one, the challenges of entrepreneur, the mistakes that they make is one, they don't read their books. Two, they don't do this. Two, they don't do accounting. No, accounting, all of those things will come to play when there is activity. Do you understand? All of those
Yes.
things will fall in place because there is an activity that is solving a problem. There is a traction that people are coming to come and bite. It's just like when you try to put sugar on the ground, ants will naturally come without you giving them invitation.
Oh, interesting, David. Nice the conversation there. Let's look at, we've been seeing many startups raising funds, most especially from VCs and angel investors. And it's kind of becoming, like you said earlier on, many startups are no longer focusing more on their project, on their business. They are after fundraising. I would like to, do you think VC and angel funding is a good one for startups to scale, or are there some other ways? I know you have mentioned how you'll be able to build your company to this stage.
Okay, so to be honest, see that there's a level playing field for everything that happens within the ecosystem. VCs are operating at a particular intersection, and they have their expectation towards how they respond to you when you come to them. So let us assume that it's a long rope. The beginning of the rope is that you have an idea, right? Then you
Yes.
move a bit building that idea. When you build that idea into what I call the minimum viable product, you now move that idea out from that point to the traction point, and then you now move it to where you have validated that market. You have what we call the product market fit. You understand? And you're
Yes.
already generating revenue, and you can prove to the investor that, see, I have mastered the art of doing this thing, and I've done it to 100 people, and they have repeatedly come back to me to buy this thing. These 100 people or 30 people out of these 100 people have been coming back over and over. Please give me money so I can scale it from 100 to 500. Why? Because I have mastered the art of doing it to 100. I did it with limited capital through what I call friends and family who invested a little or through my personal savings. But now I want you to give me money so I can take it from 300, from 100 to 300 to 500 to 50,000. If you give me this money, I will do that because I've also identified the opportunity of this market in these different areas, but I cannot reach them because I am limited in resources. So you will see the intersection, the point at which VCs operate. But oftentimes, you have the idea, you jump building, you jump traction, you jump revenue, you are going to VC. For what? Why? Why would you do that? Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you
Yes.
look at the basic platforms of fundraising, we have the family and friends, or friends and family. Then you move from friends and family to the angels. Then you move from the angels to the VCs or the private equity guys, and on and on. You get the point. So why would you jump straight to the VC when you have not even done F&F? That means you have not convinced your family members to believe in what you are doing. You want to go and convince an investor who is very calculative about his money and will take high risk in businesses that he knows that he wants to make 10x from over a period of time. So it's important for early stage founders to understand these things and the parameters to operate these things so that way it's easier for them, to manage their time. Because a lot of people are wasting their time, wasting energy and wasting money unnecessarily. To be able to manage their time, their resources, their people, and all of that, to be able to attract that. So it's not that the VCs and the angels don't exist, but a lot of people go about it the wrong way. And it's important for you to build and to understand the process of going through these things to the point of the VC so that you will not have to struggle.
Okay, interesting. Dave, let's look at your impact. You are the founder and CEO of First Founders. What are some of the impacts First Founders are making in the ecosystem?
As you may be aware right now, from an impact point, we have over 500 founders in our community. So we started in 2020, and we have created a community for founders to be able to learn from each other. We have brought a lot of opportunities across understanding the process to building a startup, bringing leadership skills to them, bringing insights about the market sensitivities, understanding macroeconomics to their businesses, bringing experiential learning, and also giving them the opportunity to demo, their startups to investors, just to get practical knowledge to how they should do it to the VCs. And then we have also raised money for people. We have also built product and all of that. But right now we have over 26 startups that we have invested in, and we are taking from the scratch to the point that they need to grow. We have 26 of them. We have built their technology, their MVP. Some of them are in market right now, and when we do that for 15%. So that has been our practical impact right now. Right now, we are want to scale because our vision is in four phases. We have just concluded with the first phase of our vision. We are moving into the second phase of the vision, which is to now to create the venture shaper system and ecosystem that allows a typical founder to have access to funding to build from the beginning that idea. Because we understand that the challenges are enormous from the bottom of the pyramid, and sometimes your family and friends may not be able to give you the money that you need. Yes, we understand that part. But when we see that you have made the first move, we will now come and now help you to augment and build that product for you and take you through the process until you are ripe enough to be able to face the VCs with numbers, data, product, value, and what we call the revenue projection that we convince the investor, the VC, that hey, come, this business has been done. So what we are doing is that we are holding founders by the hand and helping them go up there. So far so good. We are raising right now for a number of people. We have raised successfully over $10 million, since we started for a couple of startups that were investor ready. Siapa is one of them, UCAD is one of them. We have Diagon, and we have quite a number of them. Right now we are raising for Patricia $15 million, and then we are going to close that investment raise in a very short time. So what we are trying to say is that we as first founders, we are more concerned about bringing expert knowledge about we are more concerned about the problems that exist within the ecosystem. And we are in response to that, we are bringing expert knowledge, experience. We are also bringing the ecosystem support. We're able to help founders, leverage real-time process towards building their startups to be able to attract investment in the right way.
Thank you very much. You're really doing amazing. And that's a very great impact. Build small and medium scale enterprises are playing a major role in economy of nations. So you being at that stage, helping them grow is a very nice one. Thank you very much for that. Lastly, before we draw the curtain on today's episode of CoinEase Extra TV interview session, I would just like to get your closing remarks.
All right. So my closing remarks will be that founders who have ideas that solve a problem should spend more time to understand the problem and how it affects the user and how they will particularly, differentiate their idea from a user perspective from another person's idea. A lot of founders are copying themselves these days just because they want to also dabble into the ecosystem. So it's important for you to be the differentiating factor in whatever it is that you're trying to do as a founder, so that way you don't get lost in the wilderness when famine occurs, because there will be a time for famine, and when that famine comes, you will not be lost in the wilderness. Instead, you will stand up because you have built your foundation strong. So that will be my parting words for today's episode of Coin News.
Okay, thank you very much. We really appreciate the very insightful conversation it was. Thank you very much, David, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, and do have a fantastic and productive day.
Okay, thank you. We are done with